Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you are having a great start to your week. It's almost halfway through. Hang in there. You got this. Just want to take a few minutes and talk to you today. Last week we started this series about really godly friendships, and we're talking about how the best kind of friendships are the kind of friendships that really, in a way, feel like a lifeline to you. Like, they're the ones that when you feel like you're drowning or distracted or just really desperate, these are the friendships that you can go to and that you can really depend on to help you keep your head above water. And these are the relationships that you can trust, right? Now, the thing is, there are a lot of bad examples of friendships out there. I mean, sadly, there's probably more examples of bad friendships than there are really, really good. And I prefer to use the phrase godly friendships. Okay. But what we want to do today, just for a few minutes, because I don't want to take your whole evening up with this, but just want to challenge you in a couple of areas of just another example of a time in Jesus's life where he gives us an example of what a godly friendship looks like. Here in a moment that we're going to read in Luke chapter 10, where someone really needed a friend just to call them out because their actions weren't really being consistent with who Jesus has called us to be. And Jesus didn't let them, skip by on this thing. He called them out, but did it in such a way where it reinforced the love and the genuineness of that particular friendship and relationship. So if you got a Bible handy, why don't you go ahead and grab it or open up the Bible app on your phone. Let's just take a second. Let's look at Luke chapter 10. There's a scene. There's a cool dinner scene that we want to look at this evening just for a minute about some interactions that Jesus had with some people. So Luke chapter 10, we're going to be in verse 38 when we start reading this. Something that we've referenced before, a couple of times in the Hub World and all. And again, I hope that what we gain from this, at least for tonight, are how godly friendships should help you as an individual grow. Not talking grow from 5'10" to 6'1", but really in your maturity, in your spiritual maturity, in your emotional response to situations, that kind of maturity. That the godly friendships in your life should be the ones that are helping you grow in those areas. All right, let's dive in real quick. Luke chapter 10, let's read verses 38 through 42. I got my Bible. Hope you have yours. This is what we read. Now, as they were on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. All right, so we have something here. So Martha invites Jesus into her home. She has her sister there. And sister is just kind of hanging out with Jesus, sitting at his feet and just listening to him. Just Jesus is teaching, he's talking, and she is soaking it all up, right? Martha, however, not so much. We read in verse 40, but Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. But the Lord answered her and said, Martha, Martha, you are so anxious and troubled about so many things, but one thing is only necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. Okay, so there's some stuff here, guys, for us to kind of pick through and talk about. Let's do this together pretty quickly. We know that Jesus had disciples, right? And I think something that maybe we misunderstand or we think is true but is not true is that Jesus is the godfather of disciples. And that's really not the case. That term has been used for a long time. There's a long and rich history of the term disciple, and the use of this term disciple going way, way, way back, especially guys in the Jewish faith and Jewish community. This term disciple has been a term used a lot for a student of a rabbi or the student of a Jewish teacher. And so what we learn here as you kind of nitpick this word disciple, that being a disciple is a little bit about learning, but is also a little bit about imitating. It's learning and then imitating put together. That's really when you talk about what is a disciple, it is someone who sits under someone else's teaching and someone else's tutelage, but it's also someone who is encouraged and challenged and then put out there to imitate those things. So something for you guys to keep in mind as you hear us at Calvary and us in the Hub use this term disciple, it's not just about information gathering. It's not just about, all right, what more are we learning? It really is about imitating that. In your everyday life, as you go to and from school, as you go to and from work, as you're in and out of practices, like the things that you have learned, how are you implementing those things into normal everyday life? And Mary and Martha knew that Jesus was this really important teacher, and really they knew most important teacher of all, actually. And so there's a lot of pressure for Martha probably. There's a lot of pressure knowing that Jesus is in her house and that, man, she's got to serve him dinner, and maybe the house wasn't all put together yet for guests. Have you ever had somebody just kind of randomly show up at your home? Or maybe they called 30 minutes ahead of time, say, hey, I'm on my way, just got to run by real quick and just drop something off to you. It can be, I know for me, like I'm super self-conscious of how things are presented at our home. And Paige reminds me a lot, Frank, nobody cares what the grass looks like, or nobody cares if something's out of place in the yard. I'm like, I know probably nobody does, but I do, right? I care if something's left, a little out of place or something. So I get Martha's anxiety just a little bit. Totally get it. She's running around probably cleaning and prepping food and, just trying to get things to a space where she's proud of her home presentation. And then she starts getting a little mad, like she sees Mary just kind of sitting down, not doing anything. And she lets a little bit of that frustration build resentment. And, to a point where she says something. She's, sister's not helping. Sister's not, pitching in. I'm left to do all this by myself. This isn't fair. Like what's wrong? Like this is not cool. And Martha starts to take this frustration out on her sister, and Jesus calls her out on it. And this is really cool, guys. Like Jesus calls her out on this, where he says, Martha, 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 like you are anxious and troubled about so many things. You know what Jesus is saying? Martha, you are so worried about stuff that doesn't matter. And meanwhile, Mary is focused on the things that actually do. Jesus was trying to help Martha understand, it's good for you to want to keep your house cleaned and picked up and presentable. But Martha, I really don't care if everything's perfectly swept and cleaned and put away for my visit here. Like what's most important in my visit here to your home is that you just hear me, that you listen, and then that you go and you do those things that we are talking about. Jesus, I would imagine this interaction was probably a little embarrassing for Martha, and if there was anybody else in the house, listening, kind of catching this thing unfold. It wasn't an argument, it was this discussion that is more of a gentle rebuking, if you will. I'm sure it was a little uncomfortable, like, oh gosh, awkward party moment where somebody's getting in trouble, birthday party, and the birthday kid's the one getting the spanking right now because he's being a brat. Like, super awkward for everybody involved. But what was neat though is that even though this isn't an easy conversation to have with somebody when you have to call them out on something, it's giving them an opportunity to grow, right? And if you do it in the right way, and if you do it out of love, especially the way Jesus does this here with helping Martha see something potentially that she hasn't seen before. Getting her to see a perspective side that's new and fresh, and hopefully takes a bit of this burden or a bit of this weight off of her to live or act a certain way that maybe she thinks is of most importance or matters, but really she's off. And really you should be focused on this way of living and acting, and let these things over here just kind of take care of themselves in a way. Here's some stuff to understand though. And I kind of get, why Martha initially would have been really upset with her sister Mary. As we read here, verse 39, Mary sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. So we know Jesus was a respected teacher, rabbi in this community. Like we know he had risen to that level of recognition and to that position of authority. And in this culture and in this day, it would not have been okay for Mary to sit at a rabbi's feet and listen to his teaching the way that a young man would have. That would have been a controversial thing for her to do. And Martha knew that, right? So I can see why she would be a little like, Mary, what are you doing? Like, it's not fit for a woman to sit at a rabbi's feet and listen the way that she was doing that. So maybe Martha was a bit more worried about the way people would view them, kind of those implications there of, what are people going to say if they hear that, my sister was doing this, and what would they think about me? Again, everything kind of self-driven, right, from Martha. Sure, could have been that. But what's interesting is that even though Martha may have had some legitimate grief toward her sister, Jesus redirected that. And Jesus called her out on some areas to help her grow. And we could use this cliche phrase like, he threw her a lifeline here. Because he could have just as easily let her go, in her own way, in her own thinking like this. That wouldn't have been right for him to do that. So in a way, he throws her this lifeline. But there was a purpose behind it. This is what I want you guys to hear me say. It's not enough just to correct somebody because they're wrong, or to correct someone's thinking or actions because they're doing something or saying something that isn't right. The intent here is, let me help you grow. I'm not just trying to correct bad behavior. I'm not just trying to correct bad speech. I want to do something greater or bigger than that. I want to help you grow in your understanding or in your maturity or in the way that you're living and acting. And so it's a vulnerable moment, right? Anytime you have to call somebody out, anytime a friend has to confront you, anytime you have to confront a friend, that's a tense moment because we're dealing with people's emotions at a very, very close level to their heart. And so it's important how Jesus approaches this, where it's not this conversation of condemnation, right? He's not condemning Martha for her thoughts or for her actions toward her sister. He's not doing that. But he is inviting her to change, and he is showing her an area and an opportunity to change her thought and her actions. And for us, he does a similar thing. He does a very similar thing for us to give us an opportunity to grow and to change. So last week, as we were kind of teaching through some of this stuff, we went to Ephesians chapter 5 and read a verse there about really what we're called to do and be. Ephesians 5 verse 1 and 2 says, "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God." I mean, this is really important, this idea of being imitators of God. And this isn't saying, all right, so for you middle school people out there, listen, this isn't saying I don't have to do my chores, I don't have to help keep my room clean or the house clean. I don't have to do that stuff because Jesus said to Martha that wasn't important. No, that's not what we're saying, okay? If that's what you heard, go back and re-listen and hear different, because that's not what we're saying, okay? But what we are saying is that we're supposed to be imitators of God, and it's important for us to look closely at the examples that Jesus gave us and what he's calling us to do and how he's calling us to be more like him in everyday moments of our life, to include our friendships. All right? Jesus gave Martha this chance to change and grow, and we can imitate God in our friendships when we build friendships with others that help us change and grow. Okay? So here's what godly friendships really help us do. Here's the opportunities that they help us. They help us to see things in ourselves that we can't. Right? When we have godly friendships, people that we can trust, people that we have these vulnerable moments with where we're being brutally honest and it's built and rooted in love and trust with one another, those things help us see areas of our life that we may be blind to or that we may ignore on purpose, right? So here's some examples, and here's just some things for us to consider before we wrap up today, all right? Godly friendships, here's how they help you grow, okay? Maybe you feel like you've been drifting away, or maybe you've been distracted, or maybe if you're just being super honest with me, hey, Frank, I'm drowning right now, okay? Here's some areas. Maybe you have some bad habits in your life, some habitual sins, what we would call that, and you should kick these habits, and you just can't do it on your own. Like you've tried, you can't. Maybe you don't even want to try. So that's where these godly friendships come in, where they're holding your feet to the fire, say, hey, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together, and I'm going to stand by you, and I'm going to call you out every time that you stumble, but I'm going to do it in a way where you want to get back up again. This is where godly friends help you destroy bad habits or habitual sin and implement good and godly habits that help foster that spiritual growth and maturity. Godly friendships also give you that outside perspective. Maybe you have a friendship or a relationship with someone that's getting really complicated, and for any number of reasons, this isn't boyfriend, girlfriend level stuff, but it could be, but it doesn't always have to be, right? Just friendships get complicated, and sometimes they get messy, and having a godly friend that's an outside perspective come in and say, let me help you. Let me just challenge the way you're thinking. And that's tough, right? Because you're already emotionally tied to think and feel one way about the situation, and now this friend is going to come in and potentially challenge that, and that's good for you. All right, it's good for me. Here's another area where godly friendships help you grow, where you may have had this goal, this personal goal, like I really want to accomplish this year. It could be something personal, it could be something professional, it could be something spiritual, any number of things, and you just feel stuck. Or maybe you just kind of lose that motivation. But if you got a godly friend that cares about you, that knows, this really is important to you, and you've now kind of given up on that, they can hold you to it. They can stick with you. They can jump in and help hold you up as you're trying to go about establishing some consistency in your life to achieve these goals. All these things go back to a word that we use in the church a lot that we then shy away from. It's this word accountability. We kind of don't like that because I think in some sense when we hear accountability, we think someone just nitpicking all of our behavior and telling us all the times that we're wrong, and that's not how accountability should and always works, right? Accountability is those moments where good, godly friends who love you and who care about you reach out in those moments where you feel like you have nobody, and in love and in genuineness, hey, I've noticed some things, and I just want you to know I'm here for you. But I love you too much to not say anything, and I just want to ask, like, how are you? Or is this true, what I've heard about you? Because, if it is, I want you to know that you don't have to deal with this alone. I'm here for you. How can I help? Accountability works best in that kind of way. Here's what I want you to do as we close up. All right? I want you to think right now, wherever you are. If you're listening to this, at home in your room, or if you're, driving, and you just got this playing on, on your phone or through the car radio, whatever. Wherever you listen to this, I want you to start thinking about who are the godly friendships that are in your life right now. Maybe it's one, maybe it's three. It might not be a long list, and that's okay. You might, if you're super honest with me, guys, And you might say, Frank, I don't really have that. I have friends, and I definitely have acquaintances, but I really don't have this godly level friend that you've been talking about the past couple of weeks. If you do have that person, I want you to start praying and thanking God, one, for that person that you have that relationship. But if you don't have it, if you're really struggling to come up with that name, then let's use this opportunity tonight to pray and ask God for that person in your life, because guys, you need it. Okay? God desires for you to have that person. Okay? He's wired us for relationships, but not just mere acquaintances, right? He's not wired us for that. He's wired us for intimate, vulnerable like community with other people. Okay? We want godly friendships that help you grow closer to God. So pray for that. Pray, God, would you put another guy, if you're a dude listening, or another girl, if you're one of our hub girls listening, God, would you send somebody to me that can help me discover more about you? Could you put somebody in my life that helps me better appreciate the creator of everything around me? Like, I want somebody who's really going to challenge and push me to better understand your purpose, God's purpose for my life. That'd be one area for you to pray for. Here's another area. God, would you send somebody or the same person to help me just grow as a person? Like, I definitely want to grow closer to you and a better understanding of you as my creator, but I also want to grow as a person. And godly friends, we'll use this phrase, help you see your blind spots. Okay? I know all of us think that we're all great and that we don't have any flaws, but we do, me included. All right. So God, help me have someone or send someone to help me grow as a person, but also, God, would you put a godly friendship in my life that helps me better love others the way that you love others? So those three areas is really where I want you to start genuinely asking God to help you. All right, God, I want godly friends or a godly friend that will help me grow closer in my understanding of who you are as creator and what purpose you have in my life. God, I want you to send a godly friend into my world that just helps me grow as an individual, help me grow as a person, and challenge my weaknesses, challenge the areas where I feel like I'm blind. And then, God, help me grow a love for other people in a similar manner that your son Jesus loves others. Like, help me have this desperate hole in my heart for others, in a way that lost people burden me, or in a way where other people's needs burden me. I just want to be able to love others the way that you love others. So guys, godly friendships, man, are great for us. They force us to live differently. They force us to live less selfishly and really help us to better imitate God, as we read in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1. Be imitators of God. What does that look like? We have this great picture of Martha and Mary, at a dinner scene, both of them doing very different things, and Jesus using that moment to teach Martha, I think, a very valuable lesson, in a way that, hey, look, you're anxious about a whole lot of stuff. You just need to sit and rest and just listen to me. Sit at my feet, Martha, and just listen. Maybe some of us today need to take a break from all the drama, from all the anxiousness caused by school and COVID and just everything else we allow to compile on top of each other. Say, God, I just want to sit and listen. I just want to sit and enjoy a day at your feet and start fresh. Open up your Bible, start fresh, and just listen to what he has to say for you. That's part 2 of this series for us on godly friendships. Begin those prayers. Friends that help you grow closer to God, friends that help you grow as a person, and then the godly friends that help you love others in the way that Jesus loves others. Guys, I miss you. I love you. Some big announcements coming. You should see another video drop sometime today about new hub progress, which is kind of cool. And then also about our coming back to hub plan, which will happen for us on August the 30th. That's 2 Sundays from now. That'd be a separate video where we kind of talk a little bit more about that. But August 30th, guys, we're coming back live and in person in the room, August the 30th. we got a plan. And it's going to be great to see you guys back in person, in the room. We'll be in the worship center. Lots of things planned for that space for us to utilize on Sunday. So really excited about that. Thank you to Pastor Ricky and Pastor Michael and all the other guys helping us put this together in a way that it's going to make for an exciting hub gathering. We can't call it Hub Midweek anymore because it's at the start of the week, so that's kind of cool. But Hub Sundays is now a thing. Starting on August the 30th at 6 o'clock, we'll be in the worship center. More of that to come. Guys, have an awesome rest of your week. You go and spread this hope that we have in Christ to those friends and teachers at your schools, whether you're in public school, private school, even our homeschool friends. Take this hope that we have, guys, and spread it up and down those hallways and let people see something different in you as they interact with you. We'll talk to you later.